Hello and welcome to MagicMingle. Our channel is all about bringing you classic stories retold in modern English to help you improve your language skills. Whether you're learning English or just love a great story, you're in the right place. Today, we'll be exploring Anton Chekhov's classic story, The Looking Glass. This haunting tale centers on a young woman named Nellie, who gazes into a mirror and begins to see her future unfold in front of her eyes. She imagines herself married and deeply in love, but soon her dream turns into a nightmare as she faces fear, illness, and uncertainty. Through these visions, we explore the fragility of life and the anxiety that often comes with the unknown. Here's a quick summary of the story. Nellie, a young woman who longs for love and happiness, looks into a mirror and experiences a vivid, dreamlike vision of her future. At first, she sees a happy life with her husband, but soon her dreams turn dark. She envisions rushing to get a doctor for her sick husband, struggling with financial difficulties, and confronting the fear of losing him. The story captures the tension between hope and despair, showing how our anxieties can shape the way we see the future. In this modern retelling, we've simplified the language to make it easier to understand while staying true to the original story. Pay close attention as we dive into Nellie's journey. It's a powerful reflection of human emotions and fears that still resonate today. Stick with us until the end, and let this story help you not only practice your English, but also connect with the deeper meanings behind Chekhov's work. Enjoy the video. It was New Year's Eve. Nellie, a young woman and daughter of a landowner and general, sat alone in her room. She was pretty, but her eyes were half closed, exhausted from constant daydreaming about marriage. She stared into the mirror, her face pale and tense, not moving at all, just like the mirror in front of her. In the reflection, she could see the long, narrow corridor behind her, lined with flickering candles. But as her vision blurred, the reflection started to melt away into a foggy, endless gray sea. The sea rippled, shimmered, and occasionally glowed red. Looking at Nellie's fixed gaze and slightly parted lips, it was hard to tell if she was asleep or awake. But in that moment, she was seeing something. At first, it was just a soft smile and kind eyes. Slowly, a face began to appear. A man's face with a beard, gentle eyes, and a familiar expression. It was him. The man she had dreamed of, the one she had longed for all her life. To Nellie, this man meant everything: her future, her happiness, her destiny. Without him, like the gray fog in the mirror, her world was empty and meaningless. Seeing his face brought her indescribable joy. Then she heard his voice and saw their life together, living under the same roof. Time flew by in her vision, months, years, and she saw every detail of her future life unfold. Suddenly, the scene changed. Now, Nellie saw herself on a cold winter night, frantically knocking on the door of Stepan Lukich, the local doctor. The old family dog barked weakly behind the gate. The doctor's house was dark and silent. "For the love of God, please," Nellie whispered desperately. At last, the gate creaked open, and the doctor's cook appeared. "Is the doctor home?" Nellie asked. "He's asleep," the cook whispered back, trying not to wake him. He just got in from visiting his fever patients and said not to disturb him. But Nellie didn't care. Pushing past the cook, she ran into the house, through dark, cramped rooms, knocking over a few chairs along the way. Finally, she reached the doctor's bedroom. Stepan Lukic was lying in bed, still in his clothes but without his coat, breathing into his hand to warm it. A small night light flickered beside him. Nellie sat down, shaking all over, and began to cry. "My husband is sick," she sobbed. The doctor didn't respond at first. He slowly sat up, propped his head on his hand, and stared at her with sleepy eyes. "My husband is very sick," Nellie repeated, struggling to control her tears. "Please come quickly." "Huh?" The doctor grunted, blowing into his hand again. "You have to come now, or it will be too late," Nellie pleaded. "Look," the doctor muttered, "I'll come tomorrow." "That's impossible," Nellie cried. "He's got typhus. You need to come right now." "I've just come back from visiting typhus patients," the doctor mumbled. "I'm exhausted. I'm sick myself. Look at this." He held out a thermometer. "My fever is nearly 104 degrees, he said. "I can't even sit up properly. I need rest. I'll come tomorrow." He lay back down. "Please, doctor," Nellie begged. "I'm begging you. I'll do anything, just come now." But the doctor just groaned, clearly too weak to move. Nellie got up and started pacing the room, trying to convince him. She thought if he only knew how much she loved her husband, how desperate she was, he would find the strength to come. But how could she make him understand? "Go to the district doctor," Stepan Lukic muttered. "That's impossible. He's over 20 miles away, and my husband can't wait. It's already 30 miles from my house to yours, and it would be another 30 to get there. You have to come now. I'm asking you to do something heroic. Please have pity on us." "I can't," the doctor groaned. "I've got a fever, I'm dizzy, and I've been working for days without rest. Leave me alone." "But you have a duty to help," Nellie shouted. "You can't just refuse. It's selfish. You're supposed to sacrifice yourself for others. I'll take you to court if I have to." Nellie knew this was unfair, but for her husband's sake, she was willing to say anything. The doctor sighed and gulped down a glass of water. Nellie begged and pleaded like a desperate beggar. Finally, the doctor gave in. Slowly he got up panting, and started looking for his coat. "Here it is," Nellie cried, helping him into his coat. "Let's go. I'll never forget this. I'll be grateful to you for the rest of my life." But just as he put his coat on, the doctor collapsed back onto the bed. Nellie helped him up again and dragged him to the hallway. Then came the struggle of finding his boots and overcoat. His hat was missing. But finally, Nellie got the doctor into the carriage. They still had to drive 30 miles to reach her house, but at least the doctor was with her. The night was pitch black, and the wind was cold and biting. The road was rough with frozen bumps, and the carriage jolted violently. The driver kept stopping to ask which way to go. Nellie and the doctor didn't speak. Neither of them noticed the cold or the shaking. All Nellie could think about was getting home. "Hurry," she urged the driver. By 5 in the morning, they finally pulled into the yard. Nellie recognized the gates, the well, and the line of barns. She was home at last. "Wait here," she told the doctor, helping him into the dining room. "Sit down and rest. I'll check on my husband." When she returned, she found the doctor lying on the couch, muttering to himself. "Doctor, please," Nellie cried. "Huh?" "Ask Domna," the doctor muttered. "What?" they said. Vlasov said. "Who?" To her horror, Nellie realized the doctor was now delirious, just like her husband. What could she do now? "I have to go to the district doctor," she decided. Once again, she faced the darkness, the biting wind, and the endless jolting of the carriage. She was exhausted in body and soul, with nothing left to hold on to. Her mind filled with dark thoughts of the future. She saw her husband every year, struggling to pay the mortgage, sleepless nights spent worrying about debt collectors. She saw their children, illnesses, bad grades, and the inevitable loss of at least one of them. She saw her husband's death, every painful detail of it, the coffin, the candles, the undertaker's footsteps in the hall. She stared blankly at her husband's face in the vision. Was this the fate of their life together? Suddenly, something slipped from Nellie's hand and hit the floor with a thud. She jumped, startled, and opened her eyes wide. One of the mirrors had fallen to the ground, but the other still stood on the table. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, a pale, tear-stained face. The gray background of her visions had vanished. "I must have fallen asleep," she thought, breathing a sigh of relief.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.